And here we go again, against the odds. It doesn't take a genius. Here are Mark and Mike.
Ramsey!
Marshall, what a pleasure to see you yet again.
Likewise, my friend. Truly an honor. So, this could be the episode that ends our careers. We've decided to give away most of our coaching secrets. So, we work every day coaching, but also teaching people to coach, right?
Yes.
Whether they're trying to get behavior change from an employee, it could be a family situation, that type of thing. So we've got some tips that we're going to share today. And I know you had an experience this week.
Oh, yeah, it's just a thing of beauty. I have a manager who is relatively new to managing, and had an interaction with one of her first direct reports. And she's coming to me saying, how do I handle this, because I've got a behavior change I need her to make. And we talked it through, and I'm just asking questions, which is what coaches do. And in the course of this conversation, it just kind of bubbles up that she realizes that the week before she did this, she had the employee turn to her, say, how do I do XYZ? What would you do here? And she stopped herself from answering the question. Just, remember the guy on Saturday Night Live who was the computer expert, and he'd just say, move, and he'd move people out of the way and start typing for them. Instead of doing that, what she did is she said, if I wasn't here, what would you do? And that launched this person into growth, right? This person changed their behavior. They learned a new skill in the job and can take that further. So I said, FYI, you're coming to me for advice. You just did coaching. That's it. That's the magic sauce here, is getting them to think and take action, getting awareness and taking action. So probably a decent lead into some things you've put together for us today of how to do this.
Oh, well, and yours illustrates a tip that I didn't even have on the list. So one of the tips is, don't provide the answer.
Right.
So if you want people to grow and learn and develop their own critical thinking and problem solving skills,
right,
when they ask you a question, don't give them the answer.
Yeah.
Right. You ask a great question, and the question gets them to think through the situation, and then you get to figure out, okay, have I shared my values to the extent, have I shared my problem solving process to the extent that the employee could do or solve the problem pretty much like we would want it done in our organization.
Yeah.
I like your question. What would you do if I wasn't here? One of my favorites is I've actually had managers, they get up out of their chair and they have the employees sit in their chair and go, okay, you're me. What are you going to do?
Right.
I've just come in and asked you this question. What are you going to do? And actually physically have them sit in the chair so they can experience the whole thing. And then they do tip number 1, which is wait. WAIT. All right. So wait is the acronym that we teach people, so that hopefully that pops in their head as they hear themselves sharing the answer, talking too much, right? And so WAIT stands for, why am I talking? All right. So it's not a good coaching conversation if you're talking. And so do we have a ratio on that? Have you thought about this as far as the percentage of time we should be talking?
Yeah. So in coach training, we talk about the 80-20 rule. Let's let the coachee talk for 80% of the time and the coach talk for 20% of the time, roughly speaking. And you will be amazed if you can start training yourself to do this, to have that kind of discipline where, wait a minute, why am I even opening my mouth right now? If it's not to inject something that furthers the processing for this person, maybe I just shouldn't say it. They'll process. They'll just keep going. They'll just keep thinking and thinking out loud. I was with somebody yesterday, and by the end of the conversation, he said, we just talked about things that I haven't even told my wife. Um, you know, I didn't do anything. I was really just there listening. So that is it's a very hard rule. The 80-20 rule, why am I talking, is a very hard rule to implement because we like to talk and we feel like we're adding value when we talk, but we're not if it's not actually causing them to do some processing. I know that there's some brain science behind this, that we know that part of your brain goes to sleep when you're being told something versus you know, when you're being asked something. So I think that's a little bit at play here, is if we're opening our mouth and all we're doing is just meandering through a setup to a question, well, just ask the question. Or maybe we're asking 3 or 4 questions in a row. Don't stack questions, just ask the one question. It's good enough. Ask the question, let them process that. Those are the kinds of things that cause us to get off of the 20 and build it up to 30 or 40. Just ask the question, shut up, let them do the processing out loud.
Well, and somebody explained it to me. They said that it's a continuum. And so on this continuum, at one end is yell and tell.
Yeah.
And at the other end of the continuum is ask and involve.
Mm.
And so you think of yell and tell, ask and involve, and you think of these 2 points. And then the question is, when you're talking to people, where do you fall on that continuum? Are you at the midpoint? I lean more towards yell and tell.
Yeah.
You know, I'm more ask and involve. And the goal is to move more towards ask and involve.
Yeah.
All right. Can I engage people in such a way with great questions that they begin to think through the process? And one of the reasons that we do all the talking as the person being the coach is because we've already analyzed the problem, we thought through the problem, we have a solution, and sometimes we're gonna save time.
Right.
So I'm gonna make this go faster because I'm gonna tell you everything because I've already thought it through. You just listen and go do.
Right. Right.
As we've talked about before, nobody from preschoolers on up want to be told what to do.
Yeah.
And so if we don't engage, if we don't ask these great questions and provide space for the other person to do the thinking that we've already done, they will never do that thinking, and we will always have to supply the answers.
Yeah. Telling is the short way, and coaching is the long lasting way. And I think that
hang on, somebody's writing that down.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
like, is that on a plaque yet?
A pen and paper.
Do we have a Patreon where we can put that on a shirt, or I don't know. Anyway.
Oh, I'm calling Vistaprint now.
Vistaprint. So I'm a fan of my local Minuteman Press.
Nice.
Huh? See how I did that?
So say it again.
Minuteman Press.
No, the cool thing that you said.
I'm sorry.
Not your shameless grasp at getting a sponsor.
Yeah, so telling is the short way, and coaching is the long-lasting way. And yeah, and there's maybe a part of that you can sort of double down on, because sometimes you do need to tell in coaching. You need to make an observation, but usually it's reflecting back what you think you hear the person saying. Mm-hmm. Again, for the sake of them sitting with that and saying, you know, what do you make of that? You know, maybe I'm all wet. What do you see here? And giving them a chance to do further processing. That's the whole point, is they're reaching awareness so that they can take action. Exactly. So if what you're saying isn't leading to them growing in awareness, then maybe don't say it.
That's so beautifully said. So beautifully said. All right. So we've talked about this. We've mentioned this a number of times about the questioning part.
Yeah.
And so something that happens that was happening in my house, I have a teenage daughter, and my teenage daughter would ask the wife, the mom, a why question starting with the word why. And then a fight would break out. And I knew that, and so we have a rule in my house. We ban the why question, unless, of course, you want to fight. And my daughter just left for college, and so she sent me a picture of a page from her communications class textbook. And on that page, it had a whole page of why you shouldn't ask why questions.
Hilarious.
And yeah, I'm like, yeah. And my daughter goes, Dad, I thought you just made that up for me. Apparently, Dad, it's a real thing. I'm like, yes, it's a real thing. If you want to start a fight,
Yeah.
ask a why question.
I don't know if it's just our culture, but if it is just our culture, it still is relevant. Why questions make me defensive. You know,
Oh, yeah.
if I'm the client, I get defensive if somebody's saying, "Why'd you do it that way?" You know, and that may not even be how they ask it, but that's how it comes out.
Yeah. Well, just all you have to do is go up to your wife and go, "Why'd you wear that shirt?" Let me know how that goes. You know, walk up to anybody and go, "Why do you wear your hair like that?"
So I saw that play out in the workplace. I had the nicest lady. I mean, I think she taught Sunday school. I mean, just the sweetest grandma of a lady. She ran a department. She had an employee survey come back on her that was very negative. And it hurt. You know, I mean, it hurt her feelings. And she was anxious to get in there and find out what she had done wrong, or you know, how she could help her staff. And so she wanted to have a meeting where she just asked one question, which was, "Why did you score me that way?" You know, she was just trying to get to the heart of the matter. And of course, what happened, I mean, it was, you know, a year later, and I was ready to launch the next employee survey for this company. And I said, and as always, it's time for the employee survey. And one of her people stood up in my meeting and said, "Watch what you say, because they know what you're saying. They're gonna pin you to the wall on it." And the question, I learned later that her meeting with her staff to ask that one question was ice cold, dead silence. You know,
Well,
people
yeah.
just couldn't even bring themselves to answer the question. They felt so attacked, right?
Oh,
Now
yeah.
her intent was perfect,
Mhm.
but it was a why question, and they couldn't see past that.
All right.
That's the point here.
So you are a trained and certified coach with initials and stuff. All right. So, you know, what should we be asking, Coach?
Oh, what and how questions. What and how questions are so, you know, instead of me talking about your issues, you know, why did you do X, Y, Z? We can say, what was in your head at that time? You know, or instead of saying, um, something about why don't you just take action? We could say, what gets in the way of you taking action on this? And so what I'm doing is I'm taking it away from being a personal judgment to, there's an issue on the table. Let's look at it together, explore it, discuss it. So what and how questions are just they're so freeing. They open up the space for the person to really do some exploring. Exploring, again, is the processing that we're trying to do to get to awareness.
Exactly. Well, your example that you started off with, what would you do if
Yeah.
I weren't here?
Right.
You know, such a good exploratory coaching question, and starts with the key word what, not why did you do what you did when I wasn't here.
Right.
Right, which is backwards looking.
Right.
Forces us to relive the pain of the mistake.
Yeah.
But what allows us to look forward. So what and how are the key. All right, so the last tip is we've got to commit to an action.
Yeah.
You know, and you've shared your vulgar conversation analysis that
Right.
I'll let you share it again while I
Well, oh, you're okay. Yeah. So we had an old colleague who he said, beware of mental masturbation. You know, that it was somewhat pleasurable and cathartic to go through the experience, but we never made a baby. And so we're trying to make a baby here. We're trying to get results. We're going to produce something coming out of this coaching session. And Mike, I'm going to throw it back to you. One of the things you say at the end of a meeting when you've presented some material, you have had your trainer hat on, you've been telling in an engaging way. Now it's time to take that trainer hat off, put the coaching hat on. And I hope I'm prompting you well enough that you know what I'm hinting at here, but you have a great question that you use in your wrap-ups.
Oh, definitely. And I found it serves me well in almost all circumstances. So the question is, all right, we've had a great conversation. What will we do more, better, different, and or less? So more means, okay, maybe we're already doing it. We need to do just a higher quantity of it. Maybe we need to do it better. Different means maybe there's a change, right? Maybe we change something. And my favorite part of that question of more, better, different, or less is less. Oftentimes, to get better at something, we need to do less of something,
Mm.
right? Whatever the behavior that's hindering our performance or keeping us from our goal, if we would spend less time on that, that would free up time for the positive, productive behavior.
Yeah,
And
it's
so,
there. I just to before we move on from that, a coaching question I really like, and it's about that commitment. You know, you say you're going, yeah, I'm gonna do more. You know, whatever it is that we've just talked about. You know, I'm gonna, yeah, I'm gonna run. Yeah, this week I'm gonna run. Well, that's great. You're saying yes to that. What are you saying no to?
right.
Is because we're trying to get to something that shows there's a commitment level there of the action that we're taking.
Right, right. Yeah, everybody's busy 24 hours a day. Every day, you're always doing something.
Something. Yeah.
So, in order for us to change a behavior or add something, something else needs to stop.
Yeah. That's
And it
great.
could be as simple as spending less time on social media or spending less time eating
Right.
Doritos, right? You know, whatever
Right.
it might be. But we've got to make space for the behavior commitment that we want to see.
Yeah.
And so I think let's stop it there. We've got a few more coaching tips, but we may have worked ourselves out of a job at this point.
Yeah.
You know, we've
We can
given away
sell
our
this thing.
secrets.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's going to happen is the people we're working with will go, "Oh, you're doing that thing." that was a that was a what question? You're having me talk more. You're trying to get me to commit to taking an action step. Yeah, I've watched your video. I know what you're doing. So, here it is. There's the keys to the kingdom. And as we all know, so much easier said than done.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts?
One last question, and it's a perfect question for if you've taken this seriously, which is what kind of structure do you need to put in place to do this stuff? You've said what you want to do more, better, different, and or less, and now you need to put a structure in place to do that. So there's one final what question to help you get some accountability or reminders or whatever you need in your system to do this. So we hope that, dear listener, you are able to actually make use of this.
Fantastic, fantastic. And one of the other questions that we ask is, what can we do to help?
Yeah.
So from a supportive nature, and the answer most times, 99% of the time, is nothing. This is on me as the person being coached. These behaviors are within the scope of my control.
Yeah.
But I always want to ask, and we'll ask our audience, right? What can Mark and I do to help? And so just let us know.
Yep.
All right, let's see what our announcer has to disparagingly say about us today.
So go ahead and tweet that, or share it any other way you want. As always, there are no rights reserved, no trademarks, no copyrights. Share it if you want to. And join us next time on It Doesn't Take a Genius.
That's good enough.